Waters. I'm BT's Director of People and Policy, and I've been the Senior Executive Sponsor for this programme, and I'm very delighted to have been so. Have an opportunity to share some of the fabulous things that we've been doing within Sync. We have been trying something that is a little bit different. We think it's really paid off. The results are very exciting. We feel passionately about creating a cohort of young leaders, both for now and for the future, right throughout industry, who have a deep sense of values and a deep commitment to the world and the societies in which we're going to do business. And we don't believe that that can happen without real self-awareness.
I'm Sue Els. I've been running the Unlocking the Talent programme for the last couple of years now, and this has been a very important part of it, one of the very first things we did. And linking what we've done in BT with our apprentices to a much wider sustainability agenda. It's beyond the recycling, the carbon footprint reduction. All those things are very important, but it's actually about connecting communities, people, helping people give their best in the organisation and to people around them. So it must have been a couple of years ago now, I think. I came in to run this programme for BT around what we called Unlocking the Talent. And some work had already been done in terms of the setup, and there was a number of dialogues going on about pilots to be run, with great sponsorship from our chairman, which has been really important to us. He basically said what he wanted to do was to look at how, in the widest sense, we could increase the activity in the business that BT people do as part of their everyday, without even thinking about it. So it's increasing the triple bottom line behaviours, the things around climate, the things around community and things around profit, together without even thinking of it. Now, the traditional view that a lot of organisations have taken over the last few years is brilliant. It's a great start. They've had their CSR teams, they've been doing those kind of works with that work in pockets, and they've had a specialist group that are responsible for checking what all the rest of the business does. But it's seen as a specialist group, but it hasn't been kind of in the DNA of everybody in the organisation. If you go to a lot of organisations and ask them about who's doing this stuff, they'll point to their CSR team or they'll point to their PR team, but they don't say, oh, it's all of us, we're all responsible for it. So it's about making it something that all of BT's employees do every day. So this was one of the pilot projects, one of the very first ones we actually put together, because there's this great idea that I think in a lot of businesses that coaching is a good idea. Coaching beyond a skill set, coaching in terms of, I guess some people call it life skills, I don't really like that phrase, but the wider capability, resilience piece for people. We all think it's a good idea, but most organisations, if they do it, they don't necessarily link in the sustainability piece directly, and they certainly don't do it for their younger generation. It tends to be something for very senior people who've been in the organisation a long time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we asked ourselves the question, what about our young people? They're the ones who are carrying the flag, they're coming up through our business, and they are our leaders of tomorrow. They are going to be leading our business. What if we sow the seed with them early on and give them the chance to actually share that knowledge with people as they come through the business? So that was the thought that underpinned our first conversations with InSync. And of course, knowing that InSync is a social enterprise as well, so anything we invested in them would also go into the community.
What we were trying to do was to find the physical manifestation of all the good words that we hear about sustainability and other things. And also what we wanted to do, both Mike and I felt quite strongly that what we see in business in the UK PLC is organisations who are doing business and who are then over here doing something that they think is philanthropic or about sustainability. We didn't want to be that organisation. We want to do good by doing business. And we feel as a communication industry, we actually have a special obligation to try and help people connect, help them use their time better, and help them have a more fulfilled life. And I think one of the things that Mike and I were acutely aware of is that actually if you look at things on a large scale, when mankind gets it wrong is when we forget how to connect with each other. that's when we have conflicts and terrible things. So actually, at the heart of all of this are some very simple things, and we broke them down to the future context for business has to be about bringing it all together. Therefore, future leaders are going to do business in an environment that says social inclusion is critically important, climate change is critically important, market innovation is critically important, because those are the things that are actually going to deliver value. And that was the conversation that George and I started to have about what is the type of leader, what degree of self-awareness, what degree of permission about bringing all of those things into business life do we need to help people to find themselves. And also on a very practical level, I wanted to know how, when leaders are setting objectives, they can set objectives in a way that reflect those things. So, probably a bad example, but let me try it anyway. So a sales executive may say, I want you to create 2 new products to take to market. They may say that now. What I want them to say is, I need you to create 2 new products that are accessible for every customer we have, and that can thrive in a lean fuel economy. Those are the sort of things we want just to be ingrained into the way we think. And that was the birth of this. What we're trying to do is create this new kind of leader for this new context that, as Sue said, brings it all together. Because for me, one of the things that George and I talked a lot about was ethics and integrity in business. And the word integrity is about integration. So we can't compartmentalise business here, where we may say it's okay to make some iffy decisions, actually, because we're doing some nice stuff here. That is not what business of the future has to be about. And the only way that you can resolve that and bring that together is by having people who are rounded, holistic, understand the need for profitability, but also really understand the value and the responsibility that goes with that.
It was 10. There's 10 people in the group. And so straight off we're talking about values and what's important to you and what's your vision, and things like leadership. What does leadership mean to you, and how do you display leadership? And then we talked quite a lot about emotions. It's a very unbusiness-like word, but it's something that drives us every single day, every second of every single day. And so there was a lot around what emotions, what triggers, and we do this wonderful thing on the floor called the OK Corral, where people really actually see how they react to things, and that's quite a big thing. And then this week we had Action for Happiness come in. This last course, we had Action for Happiness come in and talk about, because one of the things that we asked right at the beginning is, what does success mean to you personally? And a lot of the time people say, want to be happy and fulfilled, but yet can't really define what is happiness and what is fulfillment. And so it's great when we had Action for Happiness come in and break it down exactly into these 10 areas, and it built on everything we'd been talking about. And then we also looked at what are great questions, how do you ask questions? You're asking them every single day, consciously and subconsciously. What are unhelpful questions? Because we do get into the habit of asking unhelpful questions, and we get into this negative state of thinking. So a lot of it was around raising the self-awareness of how to listen. And there was one guy on the course that said, I feel so sad because I feel as though all my life I haven't really listened. And it was a real wake-up thing for him to realise. And then the last day we put this whole collage together of where they're going, who they're becoming now as leaders, and what they want to create in their lives. So that's the whole week. And then we have teleclasses. So every 2 weeks we get to connect with them again, because that's the real thing. Because when they go back into their real environments, how is it? Because then that's where the challenges are for them. So we have telecalls with them to keep them connected, refresh what we talked about on the course, and see what challenges they're facing, and support them through those.
And do you do those one-on-one or with the group?
With the group. And it's an opportunity for the group to speak to each other again as well. That's one of the things I would say was the biggest thing out of the course, is that people take responsibility. Because at the beginning there's a lot of complaining, sometimes a lot of that, this is how it's really tough, and it is tough, and we know it's tough. And still, what can we do within this toughness? And then the most wonderful thing of the whole programme is each person then has their own coach, their own individual coach. Then that coach works with them to refresh and build on what they've learned in the whole week.
And particularly in our environment here, it's a very male-dominated technical environment we work in here. So a lot of the things that I think that Suki and George covered were sort of emotions. Even we don't do emotions, we don't talk about that, and yet of course we all know in the room that that's fundamental in leadership and fundamental in being a human being. So we talked about things with people who were absolutely not used to doing that, not comfortable in doing it, and it wasn't the workplace they were going back into that would embrace that. So we recognise the tough stuff.
And it was an interesting thing, sort of like, so you always tend to work on your weaknesses, whereas Suki and George sort of said, well, build on your strengths, and then before you start working on your weaknesses, and you never really thinking that along them lines. So I started thinking, well, what am I good at? And we did an exercise to find out what your strengths are, and things like motivator come up for me, leader, and sort of all these buzzwords coming into basically trying to people person. Sort of I got out of it realising that that's my passion, and then coming out from the week having seen my strengths and things, I sort of thought, well, maybe coaching or being involved with helping people or helping them along their careers, something maybe I want to do. So I approached the head of the apprenticeship, just straight up and met emailed her saying, is there anything can be done for me? Got a qualification from that, did it in like 2 months, so I really pushed for it. And then, as I say, just touched on earlier, now I'm assessing sort of all these people, helping them out, and using the skills I've learned, sort of get the best out of them in a way now, which is, it's turned full circle in a way. So I can use some of the skills I've learned, so the people skills and open-ended questioning, I suppose, because some of them are tough, like they don't want to listen to you, and trying to get work out of them and reviewing them, and it's difficult sometimes. They've had a hard day trying to talk to them at 3 o'clock, trying to get a review out of them and things, and just use your skills that I've learned really, and it's been really valuable to me in that sense. But yeah, like I can't speak highly enough of it. Like as just unlocking that little bit in me really. That's that little sort of spark I needed maybe. And if I hadn't done that week, I may still have that frustration in me, and maybe I would have plodded on and not really thought about what I wanted to do. And I'm quite, if I'm honest, I really know what I want to do now. Yeah, it was great. All the skills I learned, and that corral thing's great as well when you're sort of getting in a spiral. I'd feel a lot better in work after I'd sort of got some stuff off my chest, and that made my performance better out in the workplace as well. So it was great all as an overall sort of rounding of me really. So yeah, that was huge.
I think that's a critically important point that we often forget in business. The whole person does come into work, and if you can help with some of the other areas, then actually the whole person is more able to contribute.
So I had a lot more perspective on the situation after, so I was in a bit of a grumpy mood on the day, and sort of once I'd finished the call, I was everything sort of for the next week or so I was just plodding through, and my performance just basically was better by it really.
And when I first sort of found out that I was going on this, I was massively sceptical, and I really want to get that across, because my perception has changed hugely, and I think it's important to get that across, because a lot of people will be sceptical about this. And until you've sort of seen it and you've been through it, it's very hard to grasp what difference it makes. Now, I was sceptical because I've seen similar styles of coaching used before, and never really seen the advantage of them, and also being used poorly and not having a true understanding of what it is that it's meant to do. So I came into it, and George will completely agree, and he said to me at the end of the week that I came in very sceptical. But by the end of the week, I have to say my perception of the whole thing changed completely. It really did make a massive impact on me. It made me look at things that I didn't want to look at, but by looking at them, it's given me a lot more.